I hate people who are that smug and self-righteous that they think they know what is the correct answer for everyone in the country and will use the guns of the state to impose it on their fellow citizens. I have no respect for them whatsoever, and I just wish they'd get the hell out of my country, because this is America. Hello everybody, I'm Mango Thunderslice, and today is an update on the communist tyranny here in California, the liberal, progressive, communist, authoritarian tyranny of the state of California with regard to guns and accessories for the guns, and basically the vaccine issue, right, which is moving forward into its next stage of Orwellian 1984 totalitarianism. Right, so we'll start with the vaccines. SB 276 is the new bill that has been brought before the California Senate, brought up by California State Senator Dick Pan, also known as Richard Pan. I like to call him Dick Pan. And basically proposing to completely eliminate the medical exemption from California for vaccines, right? So this is the same senator who introduced California Senate Bill 277 a few years ago, which eliminated the personal and philosophical exemption, right? And then the whole reason that passed, that, people didn't see it completely as a totalitarian, communist agenda, is that they put it back in the hands of the physician, right? Your family physician. If you like your doctor, you can keep your doctor. Sound familiar? And they said basically, we will agree to this elimination of the philosophical and personal exemption, and because we're giving wide latitude to the physicians as the ones who actually supposedly know what they're talking about to make that decision for their patient and for, the child in question. And right, so they passed that under the premise that the doctor would be the one to decide, and that made sense to people. Now they're saying, no, the doctor shouldn't be the one to decide, the government should be the one to decide. The California Department of Public Health should be the one to decide for every single child in the entire state. That's the new bill, that's what it says. And in order to get a medical exemption, you have to fill out a form, send it to the California Department of Public Health, and basically you also have to have pretty much already a vaccine injury in that child in order to apply for it. And the only things you can even bring up in the justification for the exemption and applying for it is contraindications listed by the CDC, which if you've watched our videos on vaccines over the last couple weeks, you know that there's plenty of contraindications, plenty of severe adverse events that accrue from vaccines. They are unavoidably unsafe, as determined by the United States Supreme Court. And yet they like to pretend in this delusional, made-up commie world that vaccines are 100% safe for all people at all times, right? If that wasn't true, there would be no logical justification in anyone who has a single functioning brain cell in their head to support such a measure, right? You have to premise it on these are 100% safe all the time in order to mandate it to everyone and eliminate any exemption whatsoever. But of course they can't prove that. Their own documents, they admit that there are statistically significant levels of severe adverse events happening, far, far, far exceeding the risk of the diseases which the vaccines are designed to prevent, right? So it's complete moot point. It's a complete joke of a cost-benefit analysis. They're causing, tons and tons of neurological harm, digestive harm, just damaging the body with poison. They're poisoning our children, and now they're making it mandatory to do it. You don't even have a medical exemption provided by your doctor as an avenue to get out of it. And so this applies not just to public school, it applies to private school as well as daycares. Anything that is registered with the state as a place where kids are located basically is covered. So if you choose not to vaccinate and you can't get a medical exemption through the California Department of Public Health, you're homeschooling. That's your only option, or you're getting the hell out of California and moving to a red state where people actually still believe in freedom instead of communist authoritarianism, right? And this is absolutely unbelievable that this would even be proposed. Again, the whole point of 277, which eliminated the personal exemption, was that doctors get to decide. Now they're saying, no, the doctors don't know what they're talking about. Only the government knows what they're talking about, because these other doctors are issuing fraudulent medical exemptions. What authority does Dr. Dickpan, California Dickpan, have to say that all parents in the entire state must get vaccinated, and anyone who gets a legitimate medical exemption is fraudulent, right? How the hell does this guy presume to have that kind of knowledge or authority, right? He is a Chinese immigrant, right? His parents were Chinese immigrants from Taiwan. He should go back to China, where people believe in that communist bullshit, because that is not what America is about, Dickpan. It's not at all. And if you think that, you'd like to live in a country where people are forcibly injected with poisons and their children are forcibly injected with poisons for the good of the state, right? You should go back to China, all right? Go back to Taiwan, because we don't want you here. We don't need you, we don't want you, and you're causing harm to us and our families. So, GTFO, punk. And that's basically, that's one aspect. We will actually be going down to, I work in Sacramento, I'll be going to the California state capitol, Sacramento, on Wednesday. There's a hearing for the bill, and we're trying to, we're going to be there with lots of other people, parents and families who actually know what the hell they're talking about with vaccines, who have actually done the research, instead of just lapping up that narrative that's, spoon-fed by the media, right? Those people that think they're so much smarter than everyone else, but they're actually half-wit idiots who believe that Russia hacked the election and, a bunch of other conspiratard nonsense, right? I have no respect for anyone who is in support of mandatory vaccinations. You're a communist, you don't belong in this country, and you should get out and go with Dr. Dickpan back to China. That's how I really feel about it, okay? Anyway, I'm a little worked up. It's really hard for me to talk about this topic in a calm manner. It's one thing to eliminate the personal exemption and, these religious people, blah, blah, blah. We're not religious, okay? I believe in God. I know that God exists. I know that there's more going on in this universe than random chance. That's besides the point. We've done the research. We know that the diseases that are vaccine preventable are completely non-threatening whatsoever. Polio, 0.1 to 0.2% of all polio cases are paralytic. The rest basically have zero symptoms whatsoever. The rest of the diseases are so infinitesimally rare. Even before the vaccines were introduced, they were infinitesimally rare. The whole premise of vaccines is a load of bullshit. It's a crock of nonsense that only half-witted idiots who spent enough time in university to anesthetize their critical thinking skills can actually believe this shit and still believe that they're intelligent, right? I went through the university process. I am an educated person. I can dig into any document, into any science, and understand what it's talking about, because all the words are mine. You might think I'm just an English major, but guess what? It means I can read anything and still know what it's talking about. And I read these vaccine inserts, and there's no way in good faith I can vaccinate my child. There's simply no way. I would live in shame for the rest of my life if I were to do that, and it's just simply not going to happen. I'd rather move to Texas than vaccinate Isla, right? Sorry to those of you who might be in Texas, not that it's that bad, but I'm not doing it. We're not doing it. There's no benefit, and it's all cost. Literally. Anyway, on the other note, California, moving on to firearms, California had a ban on high-capacity magazines, known to the rest of the country as regular capacity magazines, which is to say 30 rounds. Basically California had limited to 10 rounds in a magazine, right, for an AR-15. And a judge down in San Diego, I think his name was Benitez, Judge Benitez, actually overturned that ban, which is a huge, majorly significant judicial ruling here in California, because it actually, it wasn't just applying to magazines, it was basically a statement on, the Second Amendment in general, and kind of setting back the communist authoritarian aspect of the California government to press forward with all these completely arbitrary and inane restrictions on, attachments to the weapon, magazine capacity. They want to say, 10 rounds is enough. You don't need more than 10 rounds. Well, Judge Benitez based his decision off of the case of a woman who actually defended her home and her family against multiple attackers with a high-capacity magazine. a 30-round magazine, because she had the regular capacity 30-round extended capacity magazine, she was able to make the phone call to the police as well as defend her family. If she had only 10 rounds, she would have run out of ammunition and she could have potentially been killed as well as the rest of her family. And so thankfully Judge Benitez saw the obvious logic here and said, no, this law is unconstitutional. It is not the state's responsibility, nor does it have the authority to determine what the Californian citizens need to protect themselves insofar as magazine capacity. It's an arbitrary ruling, and so he struck it down. Then a few days later, he basically issued a stay on his own order, kind of halting its implementation, so that basically the ban was in effect reinstituted as of 5 p.m. on Friday. So I managed to place an order for several 30-round magazines online, and all the online retailers were basically had promotions and stuff. It's like the biggest boon to the gun industry is like gun control fanatics and liberal maniacs who think that gun control is a good idea, because every time they bring this stuff up, people just go buy a whole bunch of magazines, ammo, and weapons en masse in anticipation of more communism, right? And so it was funny. It was like, buy your magazines by 5 p.m. It's almost like a gun promotion put on by the government as a result of him staying this order and putting a specific time date on it for it's the stay to go in effect. But anyway, it's very significant. Hopefully, it will be fully adopted after review here in a second. Of course, the reason that he put a stay on it is because inevitably, otherwise, there would have been an injunction from some other California court. There would have been some other action, and they would have used that as an opportunity not just to nullify it, but to push even farther back in the other direction. Because again, they already tried. They already had the ban on high-capacity magazines, but what they were trying to do was make it illegal to own any that were bought even before the ban was put into place, and illegal to even own or to use. So if you were caught with them, it was basically contraband. You were a criminal just by virtue of owning a 30-round magazine. Right, so I took my AR-15 build that I showed you guys down to the range yesterday and fired it, and it fired fine. Had a little bit of a jamming issue. I might have to tweak some things, but it fired great. It was very fun. Zeroed out the scope. The range is only 25 yards long, so I mean, it's just nominally zeroing out the scope, but it was fun. Also got my CCW in the mail after 7 months wait from the El Dorado County Sheriff's Office. Basically finally got the CCW approved. So now basically the Smith & Wesson Shield is coming with me wherever I go, at work and in general family outings, because I will not be caught unprepared. And I will do what it takes to protect my family before I need to, right? And this is kind of these, returning back to the vaccines a little bit, they're asymmetrical topics, but in light of the, the unifying theme of California communism, of the liberal, progressive, communist authoritarians, right, is that, why should you have to wait until your child is vaccine injured in order to exempt them from the vaccine schedule? Why do you need to wait until you're harmed in order to step aside and avoid the harm, right? It's the same thing with CCW, and basically, why should you wait until you've been mugged or raped or shot or stabbed in order to protect yourself and protect your family? Why would you wait for the worst case scenario to happen in order to take preventive action? Again, this is the hallmark of weak people who will never take responsibility for themselves and will always defer to the authority and wait for someone to come and rescue them. They're sad and pathetic people. They're virtually all liberals. Most of them are communists. And unfortunately, they're the majority of people in this state. Not up here in this county, not in most of the counties in California, but in the, shithole cities of LA and San Francisco, and for the large part Sacramento, right? They're just, it's an infestation of communism. And, again, it's, I wish all these people would just go to China and live there and, enjoy communism in its full glory. Actually, no, they should go to Venezuela and start eating sewer rat, barbecued over an open flame in the backyard, right? That would be a good exercise in communism for people who actually believe in it. But up here, we just have pinko commies who, they like the idea of everyone being equal, yay! And this stupid utter delusion, they basically seek to control their fellow citizens and disarm them and harm their children by poisoning them You know, and again, these are the same people who brought you Russia, 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 collusion. I'll get to this in a video on itself. I haven't said, anything about Russia since the Mueller probe ended, but it's going to be a video unto itself. I mean, we really got to dive in. I'm going to be beating the left over their stupid heads for the next 50 years for this Russiagate shenanigan. This is literally the dumbest thing the media has ever done. Dumber than weapons of mass destruction, dumber than Gulf of Tonkin, dumber than, the babies in incubators fraud that led up to the original Gulf War. I mean, they really not only screwed the pooch, they basically screwed the pooch to death and then fell into a well and died themselves. That's basically the state of the mainstream media today. Even the people within the mainstream media know it. They're aware of it. They completely killed themselves. And that in and of itself is a great thing. It's too bad that there's still a bunch of, delusional boomers believing this stupid shit, and Rachel Maddow's still on the air. She earned $7 million a year just to be a professional conspiracy theorist and ramble on about Russia for at least half of every single episode. They counted it. 53% of Rachel Maddow's shows were just Russia, 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 all right? You people are crazy. You're almost illiterate in the way that you approach politics, and yet you have the gall and audacity to call Trump supporters illiterate and stupid. The sheer hubris and just insane smugness of the Californian American left is just beyond belief. It is truly staggering to see how stupid and inane these people are, and at the same time think that everyone else around them is stupid and inane. Right? I will debate any topic with anyone at any time, right? If you think you're smarter than me, if you think you've got more info and I'm just a dummy, right? Bring it on. And I would be happy to debate anybody on anything. If it's a public issue, I don't need any preparation. If it's some, dialed in specific issue that I don't already have, general knowledge of, or most people don't, then give me 20 minutes to an hour to research the topic and I'll be ready to go. Okay? So I don't want to hear anybody talking about, I hope your child doesn't get the measles. It's so dumb. I try not to have, extreme negativity with regards to politics, but I literally hate people who are in favor of mandatory vaccination. I hate them. I will be honest with myself and be honest with you. I hate people who are that smug and self-righteous that they think they know what is the correct answer for everyone in the country and will use the guns of the state to impose it on their fellow citizens. I have no respect for them whatsoever, and I just wish they'd get the hell out of my country, because this is America, my brothers. This is America, my sisters, and we're not going to give it up without a fight. And yes, we will be down there in Sacramento on Wednesday for the hearing for SB 276. We're going to fight this thing with everything we have. Even if it passes, we're not vaccinating Isla, and if need be, we'll move to a red state. We'll move to somewhere where people are not communists and I still believe in freedom. So anyway, that's my video today. Sorry if it's a little bit intense, but seriously, I am up in arms about this. Dick Pan should go back to fucking China and leave us freedom-loving Americans alone and let us raise our children as we see fit, right? Because that's the way that God intended, that's the way that America was founded, and that's the way it's gonna be. So that's my video today. Hope you're all having a great week, and I'll see you next time. Cheers.
Ah.